What's up, everybody? Welcome to Free to Listen, a podcast talking about video game news and all other great nerd stuff. My name is John. I'm joined by Wilson
Yo.
and Dan.
What up?
We're going to start off this first podcast talking about just kind of what we're into in terms of video games right now. I myself have been kind of going through a backlog of a ton of shit that I've collected over the last 2+ years of Steam sales and other internet bundles and all that good stuff. I've been playing through The Witcher on PC. I've recently picked up Jack and Daxter on the PlayStation Plus sale. Wilson, I don't know if you've got anything on there.
Yeah, I actually got Jack and Daxter off your account.
It's one of my favorites from that generation, that franchise. Um, Mass Effect, I'm doing another playthrough of the Mass Effect franchise, one of my favorites. I don't care what people say about the ending of the third game. I still love that series. Oh, what and just like tons of random crap. The Path of Exile beta, which if anyone is jonesing for an ARPG after the Diablo 3 fiasco, definitely check that noise out. That's pretty good.
I actually have some gripes with Path of Exile, to be honest.
Uh,
No, it's nothing bad. It's just like when any kind of drops you get, it's actually kind of hard to see them sometimes.
Dude, if you press the Z key, it turns on the titles. It keeps them
I
off.
didn't know that. I don't read shit.
I actually looked it up myself because I had that same issue.
I don't
Okay.
quite understand how you guys could still keep playing Diablo 3 type games after being burned by Diablo 3. I mean, the genre has just been run into the ground at this point.
One word, Torchlight 2.
I played Torchlight 2, and maybe it's just me, but I feel like the concept has been done to death so much, and the classes were neat. Don't get me wrong, it was a fresh take on everything with the different type of classes where you don't get your normal archetypes, but still, the concept has been done so much. You can only add so many bells and whistles, but at the core, it's the same thing over and over again.
I think the appeal of those games, though, is definitely like you either love that genre or you don't really care for it. And I think I enjoyed Torchlight 2. There's like a ton of mods. There's a couple mods in the works that I've been watching, and I'm gonna wait until they're all fleshed out. That there's a total conversion mod coming out that adds like two or three user made classes and like new acts and everything. So I'm definitely gonna check that out. But that was the big pull of Torchlight 2 was the modability, and then Path of Exile is basically um, it's basically Diablo 2, but with the skill up system of Final Fantasy X, the sphere grid. It has basically a sphere grid, which is, I mean, so I don't know, man. It's either like you either dig those games or you don't, because you're 100% right. Like, there's only so much you can do at this point. Like, oh, this game has a different skill tree, or this game has unique classes, or like you can only really stand out so many ways. But I mean, if you dig those games, check out Path of Exile because it does a lot of shit right.
Oh, I totally agree with you. My biggest gripe, though, is I couldn't see shit. Like, I actually went to almost the first town before I noticed that a weapon dropped right at the fucking beginning of the game.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say before we move on to whoever's next about Path of Exile is that from what little research I've done, the game's in beta, but it's not like Diablo 3 beta where it's just like a demo. Like the game is changed and stuff's added and removed and tweaked and fixed pretty constantly, and the developers are pretty good at communicating with the player base. So
So you mean they've done more in beta and constantly work on the game more than
then
Blizzard did when
D3
Diablo 3 was released?
since it's oh for sure, and plus Path of Exile is completely free to play. There's going to be microtransactions, but it's all like non. I don't think you could buy any items. Like there's no real money auction house type thing. It's
It's
just like
probably like a free-to-play MMO where you get like experience boosters and like special
I don't even
health
think there's
potions,
that.
stuff like
There's
that.
like I don't even think there's that, man. There's like different animations for your skills you can get and like just like little shit like that.
Yeah, from everything I've looked into, it's pretty much all aesthetic. Actually, minus the experience boosters, it's very similar to like Guild Wars 2 real money transactions.
Right. Where you get like a cool backpack or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, Wilson, what have you been up to?
I finally am just about finished with Dishonored. Finally. The game is absolutely fantastic. If you guys haven't played it yet, I know, Dan, you don't really do any console gaming that much anymore, and John, you're only really on the PS3.
Yeah.
No,
But
but Dishonored on the
That's on
PC,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, that is. I totally forget that. The game is absolutely fantastic.
Well,
I
you're
have
playing it on what?
on my
PS3?
PS3. Yeah, I got it for Christmas. I cannot find one issue with the game that I can gripe about. In my opinion, it's last year's game of the year out of everything I've played, hands down.
Yeah.
Interesting storyline, great combat. There's a lot of different skill sets you can use and different abilities, but the way they use it's almost like a action wheel, where you have your D-pad is your hotbar, where you can put your favorite attacks and special abilities in the hotbar, and at the same time you can swap them out with this action wheel that where you hold down, I believe it's the L2 button, and you can
So it's
swap
like a
them out.
modifier.
Pretty much, but at the same time it actually pauses combat, so you're not like trying to do it on the fly, so you can actually take your time. And the amount of things you can do in that game, even the devs didn't realize they would be able to do it. Like falling from a height that's going to kill you, and the one ability is you can soul swap, and you'll actually go into a person's body and take over their body. Falling from a height that'll kill you, but at the last second you soul swap into their body and save your life, and at the same time you can get past guards and shit. It's amazing concepts. I really hope they do come out with a sequel. I mean, the storyline doesn't really build up to a sequel, but there's definitely, they can go and build a storyline almost like how Assassin's Creed built a storyline all through Desmond, which that's another game I've been playing. But it's kind of fresh with a different character every so often. You had Ezio, and then now you have Connor.
Well,
Right.
So
Bethesda had stated that they're going to do more Dishonored now that that's one of their new flagship IPs that they want to.
well, it's not a Bethesda IP.
No,
They
they're
published it.
publish it.
No, yeah,
They're pushing the developer for more of
yeah,
that IP.
Arcane. I'm shocked. I mean, I hold Bethesda up there as one of the best publishers and developers in the industry right now.
I mean, Bethesda's put out some crap though.
Yeah,
Did,
but
they put out that game Wet.
I enjoyed Wet.
They put out Brink, the FPS, which some people said was okay.
But if you look at it in a broad standpoint, Bethesda's one of the last holdouts from the mega publishers. And they seem to, even when they do something slightly wrong, it's almost like they can do no wrong. They're
Yeah,
one of the last, free companies out there. And
I
since
think
they got
one of the only
into-
other ones is Valve, really.
Yeah, but Bethesda and Valve, they're they're like the only two left.
That is true. I mean, like I said, I still hold both of those companies in respect. They're two of the best companies out there, in my opinion. So they can do wrong, but in my eyes, they can always fix it. And really, that's all I've been playing is like Assassin's Creed 3, Dishonored, and of course I've been playing Guild Wars 2 again. I've actually sunk quite a bit of time into that recently, and I do have to say the changes they've been making in the game, it's for the better. I enjoyed the game a lot when it came out. I know all three of us spent how many hours on the first week
A lot.
just sitting there playing that game, and we all hit cap in like the first week and a half. I hit it in 3 days.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I
like a
followed
week and a
you
half.
shortly after.
I think week and a half. Everyone we were playing with was at cap, and we were like already starting to move through the dungeons.
That was the problem though with it. We hit cap way too quickly and discovered that there wasn't much of an end game other than PvP at the end, and we wanted to do PvE content more than anything.
To be fair though, like how many other MMOs have had that same exact problem at
Well,
launch?
exactly.
Almost everyone. I mean,
That's the
Dan,
problem.
look when we were playing Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Oh, we
What-
did
once-
cap and then had nothing to do with play Hunt,
Yeah.
which got
Yeah.
stale and old, or
Do
lose
you-
it all to ran because our team sucked all the time.
Oh, of course. And at least with Guild Wars 2, there's a little bit more to do where you do get benefits for going out and doing world completion. You do get benefits besides your rank in PvP where you can get more aesthetic gear. Nothing stat-based, but more aesthetically pleasing. The same thing with the dungeon setup. Granted, the dungeon setup was kind of rough because it doesn't have that holy trinity of tank, healer, DPS, control. But it's still something different compared to most MMOs these days, and that's one of the things that's really kept me playing the game. I mean,
Plus, leveling up in that game was a fucking pleasure.
yeah, I mean
The the path from 1 to level cap was just like so much fun.
To be fair, though, Tor had the same thing. I mean, maybe I was in the minority here, but I found the level experience in Tor to be one of the best I've ever had in an MMO.
I only raised a character to like level 15 or so in Tor, so I can't really.
The best way I can put it for Tor is the Old Republic is the best single-player MMO I've ever played. I got so immersed in the storyline. I started playing the game, like maybe 2 weeks to 3 weeks after you started, Dan, and I hit cap before you did. I got so immersed in the storyline that
I got held up with work-related things at the time and
Yeah.
didn't have time to devote to it. But when you got by me, just because you loved the story so much that you were able to just sit there and play without any
definitely.
concept of reality at the time.
No, he's 100% correct. That MMO is probably the one that I immersed myself the most in, storyline-wise.
I think that's why it blew up to the point where so many people got pissed off at when they reached Endgame, is because they were all so immersed in the story, and then it came not to a slow halt to ease you into Endgame, it came to an abrupt halt. It was just like, here's the e-break, now you're in Endgame, you have nothing to do.
Oh, exactly. And another thing with that, though, is like, just like every MMO, I don't care which MMO you talk about, whether it's Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, Tor, Final Fantasy 13 or Final Fantasy 11. Early on in the game's life cycle, endgame is garbage. That's what a lot of people have to understand. Endgame is always horrible. There's not much to do. They're not expecting the average, like the hardcore player, to get that far and not realize that, because they're more geared towards the average player, really. They're expecting people to take time.
Learn their lesson after all these years. I mean, for the vast majority, I'm thinking like somewhere around 90 to 95% of all MMOs that get released in this day and age, you would think that they would understand that concept, that they're going to have a player base. Probably, I would think at least a fourth of their player base that are the hardcore, that are going to plow through the content and get to endgames, so at least have something available there for them to grind and work on, while the casuals are still catching up. But yeah, I mean, it seems like nobody's hit that realization yet.
But I mean, like, for two things for that, like, one, like, Guild Wars 2 definitely did have stuff to grind towards at the end. Like, all those legendary weapons and stuff I mean, people started getting them
recently.
Yeah, it took a lot of grinding to do to get them. And number two, game development is like, they can only devote so many resources to a certain thing. So I feel like for the size of the studio, like ArenaNet's a fairly decent sized studio, but even they have to say like, okay, like we're going to devote our resources to the level up content and
I think you can attribute a lot of the problems that plague Guild Wars 2 with the fact that ArenaNet now answers to NCSoft. And NCSoft has a strict, rigid way that they do business with their MMOs.
I don't think so, though.
I have to agree with John on this one, too.
I think they just got to a point where I think they just mistimed everything, and they started their hype a little too early, and if they could have, they would have waited to release it a little bit later, but they started hyping it up and taking pre-purchases, so like they got to a point where they had to release it. I don't necessarily think it was because of like pressure from the publisher. I think it was just they just ran out of time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. And we were both in all of the beta weekends.
Yeah.
And how many hours did we play during the beta weekends? It was nonstop.
Like the whole weekend. Every hour we could, save for sleep.
And you know me, I don't really sleep that much when I'm that invested in a game, even if it's a beta weekend.
Fucking 8 in front of the computer those weekends. But yeah, I mean, they just ran out of time, and like, I don't know. I keep track of what they're doing, and when I started leveling up a Guardian slowly. Like, I don't really play that often, but when they have enough stuff to pull me back in, like, I'll probably lose myself in that game again.
Yeah, they're what they did is they came out with the fractal dungeons, which is really fun, to be honest. It's pretty much 3 mini dungeons, grouped into one, and that's like, all right, Fractal's level 1, and I believe they go up to level 20. I'm only on like level 3, but I enjoyed them profusely when I was playing them. And they're right in Lion's Arch. You don't have to go out and run away and go through all this bullshit to get to them. Which is kind of good in my opinion, because, all right, I don't want to go run through 500,000 mobs to get to a dungeon where there's a
Only to find
chance.
that players don't hold the dungeon
Yeah,
entrance and
exactly.
get in.
Exactly, which it's only a couple, like a small event, but if there's nobody there, it's going to be a pain in the ass for me to actually get and find a group to do that dungeon. Which, another thing I would like to let you guys know is that there's actually a website, GW2LFG.org, I think it is, or .com. I'm not 100% sure.
That pisses me off that
I've used it. I've used it. It's amazing.
Yeah, but that should be in the game. They shouldn't have to. That shouldn't have been needed. There shouldn't have been a need for that.
To a point, I agree, but look at it's been around on MMOs from the beginning of time, really. Where, granted, until Warcraft came out with the Dungeon Finder and the Raid Finder, people were using forums and stuff like Reddit to find groups. This way, it's already out there. I mean, what if there's like, alright, take the first dungeon we did, that fucking pain in the ass dungeon that it was. Say I wanted to do that dungeon. Not a lot of people do it. There's a good way for me to find a group. Every time I've used that website, within 5 to 10 minutes, I've had a full group ready to go.
But I think what John's saying is that the fact that a looking for group tool like that should have been in the game.
I don't even necessarily think they need to do what WoW did with like the dungeon finder, but
No.
like they don't have anything. There's nothing in game,
there
like nothing at all.
There
There should have been like
something involved there that you could put yourself into a category that shows that you're looking for the group.
yeah, you should be able to search for people, or there should have
Exactly.
been like a global chat channel or something.
You know who did that right? Final Fantasy XI.
Oh, that was so off topic.
No, it's not really. If we're talking about like a search function within a game, an MMO, to find a group to do something, Final Fantasy XI did it right. It was there from launch. You can have comments of what you want to do. You can search by level. You can search by class. You can search pretty much any parameter you want. So
John, you do realize that we're only going to be able to talk to Wilson here until Final Fantasy XIV relaunches because
Yeah.
he's been getting
Hey,
such a chopper over.
numbnuts, look at this. March 26th, I think it is. There's a new Final Fantasy XI expansion coming out.
Oh, I heard about that, and I'm quite shocked and surprised that they've got the support even this long after launch, and they're still a subscription-based MMO. They haven't gone free to play, which is a huge deal that they're still surviving and thriving enough that they have a new expansion pack.
Yeah, they have enough subscribers to warrant a new subscription. It's amazing. The game came out before WoW, and everybody said Final Fantasy was going to die when WoW came out, and it's still big enough where they can afford to create an expansion.
They had to make changes.
Well, of course.
The
Well, I mean,
Abyssea
WoW
changes
has
and
had to
everything
make
made
changes.
it more like WoW. But still, it's still got its own niche. It's still got its own community and players, and it's still strong.
And it's still grindy. That game is grindy as shit.
Oh, it's beyond the level of a Korean MMO for the way it's grindy. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
they came up with one of the most big time wasters I've ever seen.
Leveling up is a time waster. Leveling up is a straight grind. You don't get experience for quests. But I digress. Let's get off the topic before I get immersed in it.
That's impressive though.
Daniel, what have you been playing, sir?
Well, I want to come on the podcast tonight actually talking about the new free-to-play MMO, Wizardry. That
Yeah, good luck with
just
that.
came out today, but yeah, apparently good luck with that. It takes me 15 to 30 minutes to connect, and then when I connect, it's spinning issues. So, Sony Online Entertainment, got to get your crap together, man. I can't talk about your game if you don't make it playable.
We discussed the issue, and it's not really so much of they have to get their crap together. They're looking to get a large player base, but they released the game on Steam.
Day one, they release the game on Steam.
Yeah.
You don't release an MMO day one on Steam without having the server architecture to support it. They were completely overwhelmed. They didn't have the tech ready and available, and they got completely surprised with how many people wanted to try the game. I mean, obviously, it's, the idea of permadeath, PKing and PKKing in town. It's honestly it's a medieval fantasy MMO with the style of dot hack and sword art online, and that's
Yeah.
what pulled me into it to try it. But
Oh, me
without
too.
without being able to actually connect and without having lag and latency issues, you can't really do anything in it. So I guess I'll have to hold off talking about that until like next week.
Then what have you been playing besides with yourself?
Well, both of you probably already know this, but I've been playing a lot of different mods for Arma 2. I'm a big DayZ fanatic. I've recently got into playing the Wasteland mission file for Arma 2. I haven't played War Z. I'll just get this right out there. I am a big hater of War Z.
I've played War Z.
I know you have. I don't like what they did, what the developers did, how they licensed the game, how they promoted the game, the way they run their forums like a neo-Nazi camp. I'm big enemy of that game.
I could care less how they run their forums, how they run their company. The game is just poop, in my opinion. It's horrible.
I'll straight up agree with you on that one. I mean, from what I've seen, the update patches, they've taken a lot of steps towards trying to fix and make it into, a quote-unquote game, but they've still got a long way to go. Whereas, DayZ is a free mod. And it's
essentially War Z is a mod of the game they already came out with.
That's entirely true. In my opinion, it's a mod of War Inc.
Yeah. And I've played DayZ, not nowhere near as much as you. I enjoy the game. It's not something I can invest a lot of time into because it does get boring to me at times. But it's a quality title, especially for a mod. And War Z is just god awful. It is horrible.
And the DayZ community, and this is one of the reasons why I play it so much. The DayZ community, you could say what you say about them. Some of them are bandits, assholes, people kill on sight. But the actual community that develops things for DayZ, that keeps pouring in new content for the mods, there have been, this week, 3 new maps got released on DayZ Commander. Thirsk, Isla Duala, and DayZ Origins. All this while the standalone is still being worked on, and the standalone has started closed alpha testing, and the streamers and YouTubers are going to be starting relatively soon as well. So this is
down
still
to check it out.
It's still such an evolving project. I mean, Rocket has come out with new photos and screenshots of the game and talked about different things, like you're going to be able to actually change different parts of your clothing you'll find in buildings, and the clothing could actually be diseased and you might catch different illnesses, and you'll have to take different medications to cure yourself of different illnesses. The amount of detail and love Rocket seems to put into his game is just beyond anything I've seen from any other developer, and that's why I continue to support it. I've never gotten any kind of experience from a game like I've gotten from DayZ.
Another thing with it is it does have that good player base that is almost creating content for the game because people are hosting servers for people to come on. It's almost like Team Fortress 2 where you get with those nice clans that we always play with that are always asking us to join them. But there is a big community for it. It's huge. It's one of the top commentated videos on YouTube and on Twitch.
And if that game didn't have players that were like assholes, like I don't think the game would be as popular, to be honest. Like,
not at all.
The threat of PvP, the threat of banditry is what drives the
whole
survivors
thing.
along. It's the experience, because once you, for the first week when you play DayZ, the Zeds are a threat. You don't know how to deal with them yet. You don't know how to maneuver around buildings, lose line of sight. You don't understand zombie spawning radius, that they spawn within a certain distance of a player. You don't understand all that concept yet. But once you start growing in experience in that game and learning that Zeds spawn in a 250 meter radius, and you could tell if somebody's in a town and where they're at by locating where the Zeds are, how to lose them, how to dispatch them easily, the players start becoming the bigger threat.
I saw that almost immediately after I got a little more into it when we were playing together, Dan. And You're exactly correct. Once you learn how to deal with the Zeds, breaking line of sight, running through a building is the easiest way to get through them. At first, I was trying to play cautious and freaking crawling everywhere. I would
No,
get
then you
nowhere.
just sprint through a city. Once you learn how to deal with the Zeds, it's just full on start training.
Yeah, and then one of the biggest threats, in my opinion, in that game is goddamn hackers.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I've been playing Daisy less in the last couple of weeks and moving more over to Wasteland is not because of getting disinterested in Daisy. Standalone is coming out, and I don't want to get burned out on Daisy for when Standalone comes out.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna pick up Standalone when
But
it comes out.
Yeah,
the
I'll probably pick it up.
hacking problem is just it gets out of hand, and
Well, that's a big
getting
issue when they're.
hacked in Daisy is just it's so demoralizing. You just got all this stuff, you get hacked, and now you lost all of it and have to gather it again and spend another 2 to 4 hours getting all this gear. If
Yeah,
you
I can
get
imagine,
hacked
man.
if you get hacked in Wasteland, it's not that big of a deal because when you respawn back in, oh look, there's a vehicle 2 feet in front of me, and oh look, it's got an FNFAL in it. I'm
Yeah.
back in business. It's
Well,
not
look
a
look
big
at when
deal.
that one night we were playing Daisy for what 6 hours straight, and we were running in a random spot, and all of a sudden your leg broke because there was a hacker right by us with Invisimode on, and he got pissed because we killed him, and I took his gun, and then he turned his little hacks on, and it's not even hackers, it's script kiddies,
Yeah,
and all they
because
do.
Irma 2 readily accepts scripts. These are not
Exactly.
hackers. These are guys that literally pay for the scripts that go around the battle eye and are able to make characters or do things on the server map that they're not supposed to have, you know, a clearance level to do, which are supposed to be reserved for the admins of running the map.
Yeah, where I picked up his gun, which isn't a gun that's available to a regular player. And he typed it out right in chat. Can I have my gun back, please? And when I said no, he broke your leg.
He broke my legs, yeah. But I mean, like getting hacked in Wasteland it's kind of a funnier experience. Like the other night we were playing and we all got scripted and we all started dancing Gangnam Style.
Oh, that's kind of cool. That's
It was
funny.
it was funny. Like 10 minutes later, the hacker got booted and we all went back to our business after respawning and oh look, there's a vehicle. Oh look, a gun. All right, heading back to base. It's not a big deal dying in Wasteland. You're meant to die in Wasteland, which is why I've been playing it more. There's less hackers, less scripters, and without the having to deal with the Z aggro and just having to worry about other players, you get that PvP thrill.
No, I do intend to pick up and play some Wasteland with you this weekend. I do want to try it. I've been watching a lot more videos on it. It does look interesting. It actually looks more interesting to me than DayZ. But right now, DayZ at what it is, it's really, unless you're on a high populated server, it's kind of boring.
It does get boring. It becomes Hiking Simulator 2012.
Yeah.
It honestly is what it is. But to get off that topic, because I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about that, I have been playing a couple other little titles. I tried, like I said, I tried to try Wizardry Online, but that didn't go over too well. Been playing a little bit of PlanetSide 2, another SOE game, but it seems like they didn't drop the ball on that one. And PlanetSide 2 is immensely enjoyable. I got a lot of fun out of from what I've played of it.
That's like Mag meets an MMO, isn't it?
It pretty much, and I mean, you get these large-scale battles, which are just absolutely ridiculous in size and scale. You've got like 20 people operating vehicles, while another corps of engineers are setting down like spawn points, and you've got a team of snipers up on the ridge, while your assault troops are trying to take the capture points inside the base so that you can spawn there. And there's just so much going on at once.
Oh, that's good.
It's unfathomable to think about the scale of that game. If you watch YouTube videos of it, you'll be surprised at how large the
Oh, I
battles
have.
can actually get.
I actually have it downloaded. I just haven't played it yet. Like I said, I've been really busy with work the last couple of weeks. I've probably put in about 30 hours overtime in the last 2.5, 3 weeks. But I have so much I have to play, and me and John, we were talking about this a couple days ago, where we just have these huge back catalogs of games we haven't touched.
Yeah.
And the way 2013 is lining up, there's a shit ton, literally a metric shit ton of fantastic games coming out this year. And I
Yeah,
don't know
definitely.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. I really don't. But
I'm gonna buy them and they're gonna sit
yeah,
with the
I
rest
mean,
of them.
If you look at my Steam library, I have nowhere near as much as you. You're in the 200 some games, John. But I'm in like I have like 63 games, I think, and I've maybe played about 10 of them more than in a half hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah, I
Dude,
mean, it's just nice. I enjoy having such a huge collection. Like as bad as I feel about it sometimes, like it's nice to be able to like, oh, like I'm gonna check this game out and to just have it there and be able, even if it's only like for an hour, and like that's all I ever put into it. Like I don't. Most of the games I buy on Steam, I Skyrim I think might be one of the only games I bought full price on Steam. To be
Oh
completely
God,
honest.
yeah. There's not too many I buy on Steam at full price. And back to the okay, I can play this game for an hour and leave it go. That's what got me on my kick of the like the Binding of Isaac,
Right.
your roguelike style games where yeah, the Binding of Isaac, I can pick it up, play with it for 45 minutes, a half hour, put it down, and come back, and it's just almost like a brand new experience. But at the
now,
same time, I have 159 hours played on it.
Yeah.
do you have any regrets of games that you haven't picked up yet from 2012? Because I mean, let's face, 2012 was
Yes.
a decent year for the gaming industry. With
I do.
2011 was a pretty bad year for the
Yeah,
video game industry.
I mean, 2011, the only game that I actually really enjoyed was Castlevania.
I think that was. Did that release at the beginning? No, I thought it released in October of 2010.
Was it was it 2010? I thought it was. I thought it was 2011.
No, it was 2010.
Well then, shit. 2011 fucking sucked.
Yeah, and
Wasn't Skyrim was 2011, wasn't it, or was that
the
2012?
very end of 2011.
Yeah,
The very end.
Was
and
November.
I put lots of time into that game. That's probably the only game that actually really made me like 2011, to be honest. 'Cause
2012 was a good year for, it seems like, a lot of independent companies.
Yes.
You know,
Not only
indie
that-
developers got a lot of love in
oh yeah,
2012.
look at Team Meat, who did Meat Boy and The Binding of Isaac. You have
Telltale Games.
Telltale Games.
Walking
you
Dead
have
was phenomenal. I don't know
Walking
if you
Dead
played
was
it
up
yet.
there on
it,
mine. I
it,
played
it
the
was
first one of
fantastic. I played the first two as well. It was free on the PlayStation Network,
those. Yeah.
and
It was.
it
a
won
lot
Game
better.
of the Year in a lot of
It
lot
won
of
Game of the
places.
Year on the Video Game Awards, which I was immensely happy with that. Anything that sticks it to freaking Call of Duty is good in my book.
You know how I feel about Call of Duty now. I out of all of our friends, mutual and whatnot, was probably the biggest Call of Duty player.
Yeah, you were ridiculous.
I-
You would buy it on multiple consoles.
Yeah, I would play the shit out of those games, and to be honest, Black Ops 2 was the game that really pushed me away from Call of Duty. Now, one thing I did see, and I don't know how it's going to affect the YouTube commentator community. Black Ops 2, they actually just released an update for the PS3 and the Xbox where you can actually stream directly from your consoles, which
Okay.
I think it's amazing. It's really neat.
They're
but at the
also
sa-
doing that contest for $1 million.
Yeah, so you're going to get tons of shitty content on YouTube. Tons of shitty content. And
Oh
I don't...
wow, that's something new.
Well, I'm talking in general now compared to what it used to be. You're going to get a lot more than the regular amount of shitty content.
Yeah.
But at the same time, everything I've seen, I didn't hear anybody ever talking. I don't know if it doesn't accept microphones or what.
It was as if 1,000 screaming 13-year-olds cried out in agony.
That's what it's going to be. It's
Silence.
going to be tons of like 12-year-old prepubescent boys crying about how they quickscope somebody and people are hacking.
Oh my god, look at this 180 quickscope, trollolol.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
2012 though, I am very upset I didn't get to play XCOM. I really wanted to play that.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. And I hate to say it because I've heard the game is so short, but it's so worth it. Is
Yeah, but
Journey?
like it's made to be replayed.
No, I'm not. I'm not talking about XCOM. I'm talking about Journey.
Oh, Journey.
Like that, from what I've heard, is one of the best like equivalent like PlayStation
yeah.
Network and arcade games for Xbox Live that came out. And everything I've heard is it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's great.
That
but
won a Joysticks Game of the Year.
yeah, but it's a $15 title, which I get it. It's that company has always put out good quality games such as like Flower, and they really do push the limits of what.
Flower was short as shit too, though.
Yeah, it was, but Flower was a fantastic title for what it was. I mean, it really pushes on that boundary of games being art.
I don't know if I don't know if I call them I don't know if I call them art, but they definitely make you think about what a game is. Which I mean, I guess
No,
that makes it a
no,
means to
I'm
argue,
not
but
calling the games art. I do consider video games a medium of art, but a game like Flower, which really it's not your typical game, but it's something great to play. I must have sunk maybe like 50, 60 hours in just into Flower because I enjoyed that
really
game
you
that
kept
much.
playing through it.
Yeah,
I have
and
a feeling you're gonna ridicule me for my regret.
What is it?
I ridicule you for everything, Dan.
Well, I understand that. No, my biggest regret is that I didn't go out and pick up Halo 4. I wanted to give it a decent shot. I wanted to try it. It was a fresh start from a new studio making the series, and I've watched the story cutscenes on YouTube, and it seems like they actually really did a good job on the story, continuing it in a believable manner without making it seem like they're beating a dead horse with the Master Chief storyline.
I kind of agree with you on that, but I sold my Xbox way before Halo 4 came out, and
I'd play Halo Reach over Halo 4. The Halo Reach story
I,
was always interesting.
I really enjoyed Halo Reach, and when I bought my Xbox, I never really played it. I played through Halo 1 when I was really young with my stepbrother on co-op. I never played Halo 2. I was never really a big Xbox fan until I bought my Xbox 360, what, 4 years ago, Dan, if that?
Yeah, we got our Xboxes around the same time.
Yeah, and I was...
Right after Gears of War 1 came out and right before Gears of War 2.
That's my biggest regret for selling my Xbox, is after I sold it, they announced Judgment, and you guys know how much of a Gears of War fan I am.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Yeah, I just wish your fandom would translate over to skill sometimes.
Anyway, let's continue on with this podcast here because we have lots to discuss, and we're probably at that like the half-hour mark already.
We're past that.
Yeah,
Can you feel it coming in the air tonight?
we're getting on that issue. What's the?
Let's
I
get
do.
the PS4 out of the way first.
This really seems like it's going to be the biggest news, to be honest.
We
Out
can
of
knock
all,
that out.
I mean, there's not much to talk about. It's just all hearsay right now. But the big issue is, Sony announced there's a big announcement coming on February 20th with this little clip of graphics of the big
PlayStation
news.
buttons.
Yeah,
What could it be?
yeah, exactly. And the dev kit was released to some developers, and based on the specs of the dev kit, which if it's anything like the console that's going to come out, the system's going to blow shit out of the water. It really is. 8 gigs of system memory, 2.2 gigs of video memory, 4 dual-core processors, big surprise, touchscreen controller.
I told you.
So far,
I told you it was a matter of time before everybody else once again copied Nintendo with
Of course.
better RAM and better video card, better processor, but copying Nintendo's idea.
What I do like, though, is alright, say us three were playing on one system with the controllers. We can essentially link our PlayStation Network accounts to the controller, which is kind of neat.
that is kind of neat.
Just because it can track trophies.
Yeah, so like if I play on your console, it'll track trophies on my account.
Correct.
And, like,
which
you
is
could
kind of neat. And there's not too many games on the PS3 that are multiplayer that'll let you log into multiple accounts. I mean, Little Big Planet you can do it, but most of them they don't even give you that option. They're just like, okay, here's player 2, go on your merry way. But this way, and I'm a big fan of co-op, whether it's online or in the same room. I'm a big fan. I really hope the PS3 or the PS4 or whatever they're gonna fucking call it. It's codename Orbis.
I hope they just call it PlayStation 4. I'm down with
Yeah.
it.
Now, here's my fear of this. But don't get me wrong, and I like Sony. But how long can they continue? Because you have to face facts. The PS3 was only profitable for them in the last 2 years of its life cycle. For the first however many years that this console generation went on for, it was sold at a loss for them, and they barely were making it back. And the only reason they survived is because they're part of a bigger corporation.
And
different
PlayStation
divisions
2
were-
sales.
And PlayStation 2 sales. All that money was being filtered back into the company from other divisions like, the electronics division that does the TVs and, whoever uses them anymore.
Well,
Walkmans and CD
it was
players.
it was like 2 years ago that the TV department took a huge loss over the year.
Exactly. You wonder now if they're going to make this system, and from what the dev kit specs say, how powerful it is. Are they going to sell it at a loss again?
They have to.
I mean,
Because
for a console, it's powerful, but it's like the specs you listed so far, Wilson, are just like if you bought a put together top of the line PC.
It's not even top of the line at this point right
Yeah,
now.
that's not. Yeah, if you spend $1,000 on a computer,
But
you would get a better rig than that.
for touching on the tech cost thing, I mean, even the Wii U is being sold at a loss by Nintendo right now.
The only system in the history of video games that was not sold at a loss since the Nintendo generation was the original Wii. Every other system, they're always sold at a loss. And the only reason why the Wii was not sold at a loss because it was essentially a GameCube with motion controls. Same hardware, add a little woggle in there. It cost them $70 to make a Wii
But
at
do
launch.
they have the library to make back the money in first?
Dude, you got
first-party titles.
peripherals now, man. You got all the gear. You got the Move. They're gonna have some kind of Kinect ripoff.
Oh yes,
That's where
yes. Let's talk about the Move.
But to make the Move controller, it probably doesn't cost them shit. The margin on that's probably pretty high. So that's probably where they started making money back, just on crap like that. And
Yeah,
they're gonna have a touchscreen controller. That shit's gonna be overpriced as shit.
That's the problem though. They're making a touchscreen controller with this tech that is what, Wilson? The tech and the dev kits are maybe about a year and a half old now.
Besides the touch, by PC standards, more than a year, definitely more than a year. I mean, you're looking at dual-core processors. You're looking at 8 gigs of onboard system memory. That's not much. It doesn't even say what kind of. It's probably DDR3.
Yeah, it's probably DDR3.
So if you're looking at this now, you're thinking that it's probably going to cost them around $600 per unit. Just throwing that out there.
Not including the controller.
Not including the controller. So if they're going to sell it at a loss, and to stay competitive, they're going to have to sell it around the $350 to $400 price range. That's a big loss.
Look at the loss they took on the PS3.
And they can't repeat the pricing error of the PS3 again, because selling it at $600 is just not going to fly in this day and age anymore. People are not going to pay that much money for a console in this day and age anymore, barring real big techno nerds that are looking forward to the Steam box. Maybe somebody
can't wait
for a piston, but they're not going to pay $600 for a PS4.
Who cares, dude? My opinion, man. Let them overprice it. Let them fuck up and let it go. I mean, console. Have you guys tried big picture mode on Steam? It's amazing. It's better than any console.
It is.
It's amazing. It's perfect.
I will personally save up money for a top-of-the-line piston when Valve releases them. I
will too.
I'm just any money that I would think about spending on a new console, I'm just putting it aside so at the end of the year I could buy myself a brand new shiny rig, whether it's a Steam box or whether it's just a tower, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because really with big picture mode you don't need a Steam box.
You don't, because that's what a Steam box is going to run. It's just going to run.
Yeah, and not only that, from everything I've read, most of your games are going to run server side from Steam, just like what was it, OnLive?
OnLive.
So I'd rather have the software running off of my rig instead of running server side.
Spend the money on an actual tower and have the benefits of having a really powerful computer on top of a really powerful gaming rig, and then the difference, I don't know, I'd just save up money for like a really long HDMI cable. My computer is set up like pretty close to my television, so I could just plug that in whenever I want to do.
Not only that, I mean, if you look at the rig I build, I have a pretty powerful rig. All in all, I think I spent $800, $900.
If you know what you're doing, you can get a great rig for.
All you essentially have to do, and I'm not talking top of the line rig. I'm talking something that will play pretty much anything that's out there right now. Go to like any big box store and buy a rig that'll have decent memory, a decent hard drive. Most of them come with a decent power supply now. Spend the extra money on a graphics card, throw it in there.
That's where I'll argue the point with you. They do not come with decent power supplies.
Yours didn't come with a decent power supply.
Box rigs generally come with 120 to 240 watt power supplies.
Yours came with 120, 240.
Burn.
You know what mine was, Dan? Mine
How
came
kind of scared
inbox $650.
Well, you got a lucky one then, because that's a rarity.
Yeah.
I've looked at these other rigs while I'm out shopping, and I have not seen one with a 650 power supply.
Yeah,
in
mine
it.
came with a 650. That's why I didn't have to swap out the power supply when I put my
Listen,
new
you're
video card in.
just special.
It is. It's like a
when
Pringles
it's all
can.
said and done, it's cheap enough and easy enough to even if you build a rig yourself, if you just buy the components in a box and
Yeah,
just
it's
toss it
cheaper.
together yourself, it's not hard.
No, not at all. Pretty much the way it is now, it's all plug and play.
Yeah, and there's plenty of guides online that you can find for free.
Yeah.
And in the end, you have a whole computer. It's not something that just plays video games. I mean consoles now do more than that, but I mean if you have the freedom of a computer.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing with that is if you look at like the overall comparison from a decent gaming rig to a console. Okay, yeah, it might be cheaper to get a console right off the bat, but if you take a look like Steam, or I hate to say it, Origin, or GOG, or Green Man Gaming,
Do not speak of Origin. We do not speak of VA here.
whatever. If you look at those
Yeah.
the availability for games on those, you can pretty much find any game you want. It's eventually going to be on a sale. Look at Steam with its Christmas sale and its summer sale, where you get ridiculous games for dirt cheap. I mean, it's always going to be cheaper in the long run.
And the upgrade. I mean, PC gaming's. I mean, everyone used to say it's dying. It never did. And if anything, now it's making a really strong comeback.
It'll never die. I mean, the PC gaming has always survived throughout any crisis that the video game industry has had. Look at the crash of '83. It survived. That's where video games stayed. They went into personal computers, whereas the arcade and home console market died off until Nintendo came along. You'll always have people messing around with coding and messing around with creating virtual worlds on the computer because
Not
it has
only
the
that,
power to do it.
if we're going back to '83 with the crash and everything, the two top purchased software titles for the PC for like 10 years was number 2, Windows. Do you know what number 1 was? Doom for DOS. Number 1 selling software for several years.
Oh, come on, Oregon Trail wasn't up there? Dysentery, man. Dysentery.
Fuck Oregon Trail, man. I could never win at Oregon Trail. I'm pretty sure there's no end to that game. Let's go on, though.
One last thing I will say about the next generation of consoles is hopefully it starts console flame wars on the internet again. Those used to be amazing to read.
Yeah.
They were
definitely.
hilarious. They were endless source of entertainment.
Fingers crossed for that.
I do have high hopes for the Wii U, though. It's not looking too good right out of the... But it's still early in the...
This is another reason why I think that, we've clicked so much over the years, is that, we laugh about the console wars and the flaming wars and stuff like that, because if you're a gamer and you really, truly enjoy playing video games as a hobby, you're not a fanboy. You're not a one console person. You own multiple iterations. You own a PC, probably an Xbox, probably a PS3. You may not own them concurrently at the same time, but you've tried or experienced all
Exactly.
of them. You have a broad range. You don't just stick yourself to Xbox and sit there and go, oh, Sony fanboys, haha, trollolol. No, you look at every iteration, every experience. You look at the different versions of the games, the same game that comes out on different consoles, and make a rational decision.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot from older gamers.
Yeah, I mean, like the PC is the best anyway, so.
Well, obviously, but that's only because of power.
You didn't even
No,
get
but
it,
you're
Dan.
right, it doesn't matter. I mean, anymore, like everyone plays the same shit anyway. Like console exclusives are like not a dying breed.
You
but
see this fanboy flaming war more in the younger gamers. The ones
Yeah.
that are
I mean,
playing
they have to have
mommy and
something
daddy's
to-
credit card on Xbox Live, and they sit there all night long. They trash talk on Xbox Live. You rarely get them on. We're starting to see more of that type of gamer on computer. I know, Wilson, you've experienced it with me and Daisy, where you hear them talking over side chat, but they get blasted out of the community so fast.
Yeah.
for their crap on PC.
The only community you're really going to see that type of person on right now, in my opinion, is going to be like the elite heads in any kind of MMO, and
Oh, you
Counter
see them
Strike.
a lot in WoW.
Fucking Counter Strike. I'm
Yeah,
afraid to join that community. But yeah, you're not going to see. But
Counter-Strike has so low system requirements, though. That's another reason why you see it.
not only that, but Counter Strike has been like the pinnacle of the esport, if you will, where that was really the first one that came out and had big money tournaments was Counter Strike. Counter Strike, Quake.
Well, over here, that was one of the first.
Well, yeah,
ones.
I'm not talking about like the Koreans and fucking StarCraft with
Zergrush!
their 287 million moves per minute.
Zergrush, LOL.
But yeah, like Quake in a way, yeah, but Counter Strike really monetized the esport.
I don't want to get off topic too much, but I just want to mention how pumped are you? Speaking of, the older FPS generation, how pumped are you for Doom 4?
I'm more pumped in the VR glasses that they're coming out with for the remake of Doom 3.
Seriously, the guy's like a visionary half the time, and the other half of the time we don't know what the hell he's doing.
But let's continue on. We have so much more to talk about, and we're probably at like an hour or more right now.
At least an hour.
So
Dead Space.
oh god, oh fucking god. Oh,
I have a lot to fucking say about Dead Space. And Dan, I know you're a fellow survival horror genre fan. So
Very much so.
This is gonna be our time to fucking get all this out.
We're card-carrying members of the survival elite, my friend. We've gone back to Resident Evil 1.
This is ridiculous. Two of my favorite genres, science fiction and survival horror. Dead Space 1 was I would give it a B, a solid B. It was a good concept. On normal difficulty, it got way too easy at the end, which was, whatever. I could have played through again at a harder difficulty, but I just never fucking did it. The atmosphere and the setting was great. I really enjoyed it.
It was phenomenal for survival horror.
I felt the horror aspect was what dragged down the grade a little bit, just because it relied a lot on kind of cheap scares, ambient noises, stuff popping out at you, which always works. It always works. But the setting I felt was good. I really liked the main character, how he didn't open his fucking mouth ever. That was one of my favorite qualities of him as a character.
Well, because you're from our generation that, grew up with silent protagonists.
It just made it scarier to me that he was just walking around shitting in that suit the whole time, in my mind.
Well, another thing that made it scary was that, you weren't this beefy space marine. You
were an
weren't
engineer.
Like this ex-Delta Force. You were a fucking engineer.
A goddamn scientist.
Yeah, not even a scientist. You were like the equivalent of a space janitor.
You used tools the whole time. That was the whole point of the game. You found these tools that you repurposed as weapons that dismembered.
Like, over halfway through the game that you actually found a military space assault rifle, and even it wasn't even nearly as good as the other weapons in that game.
Exactly. So I feel that I played through. Did you play the second one, Dan?
I played the shit out of the second one. Yes.
I played a bit of it. I couldn't get as into it as the first one. I don't know why. The story I liked how they brought the religion to the forefront, because I felt like for so much of the first game, another quality before I go on, quality I liked about the first game was that the more you invested into looking into the story of that game, the more you got out of it. So if you sought out all the little notes and recordings and whatnot, you got a pretty good story out of it. And then at the end of the game, it was a good payoff, I felt. So okay, this makes a lot of sense because everyone was talking about that religion and whatnot. Do you agree with that or no?
See, I put Dead Space 2 above Dead Space 1. I really enjoyed Dead Space 2. I thought the only negative thing that I could even say about it was I think it had a little bit too much emphasis on DLC because the
Yeah.
very first week there were so many different pre-order packs.
EA.
And that's the problem with it. It started becoming a milked IP. It was a great idea as a new IP, but then started going into the realm of, hey, this is something that we can make a lot of money on if we do our normal shit like we always do with every one of our other games.
See, my problem, I think that was why I couldn't really get into it. I picked up Dead Space 2 on Steam on sale, maybe the winter sale of 2011, maybe, and it came with like a bunch of that DLC. So the first time I got to a store and you're like bank, I had all this crap. I had multiple awesome suits. I had weapons. I had all
It
this.
detracted from the survival aspect of the game. It almost made
Exactly.
you like you were so overpowered at an early stage of the game, and there was no reason for it. And again, you don't have to use all that stuff, but they're throwing it at you like they
Yeah,
want you to use it. So they
exactly.
detract from the game.
And I hate to
So far,
interject here,
go ahead.
because I've played maybe about a half hour, 45 minutes of Dead Space 1, and I haven't been a big survival horror fan since really Code Veronica and maybe Parasite Eve, but
Dude, two.
amazing game.
I'll argue the genre in Parasite Eve, but it's a fantastic game.
Parasite Eve, it's more actiony than survival horror, but it was a fantastic game.
Yes, that series.
Yeah, but for Dead Space, for me, I was sort of always kind of interested in it, but now that I'm seeing that Dead Space 3 is coming out, day one launch of 11 DLC packs and microtransactions, I am totally turned off.
I was turned off from the first gameplay trailer. I think it was E3 last year. I think, and there was just like that co-op, back to back, bro.
Yeah, they
Like-
brought in a co-op partner, a la like Ashley Resident Evil 4 or Sheva RE5.
Or, the whole Gears of War 3 or Gears of War trilogy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. Why?
And
Why?
it's moving away from survival horror and going more into
Resident
action
Evil.
realm. Yeah, it's basically EA is following suit of what Resident Evil tried to do, and guess what? It didn't work for Resident Evil because they just made a statement in the last couple of days that the producers of Resident Evil want to go back to their roots, and they understand that it didn't work. It was a failed experiment. 6 was a great action game, but it was a shitty Resident Evil game.
Did you
Same
play
thing with
6?
5.
Dan, did you play 6?
I did not play 6, no.
It's the same thing with 5, though. 5 was a straight-up action game.
5 sucked.
If you take the aspect that it's Resident Evil out of the game, it would be a decent action game.
I mean,
But since
you
it has
changed the story completely.
The only spot of all of Resident Evil 5 that resembled Resident Evil whatsoever was the DLC where Chris and Jill went to confront Wesker in Spencer's mansion. That's
Yeah.
the only part that actually felt like Resident Evil because it was a creepy atmosphere. You had Wesker, the whole Umbrella conspiracy, because Resident Evil is as much survival horror as it is the story behind Resident Evil.
Oh, definitely.
And
I read the books and
they
everything.
got so far away from the story in Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 that it was outright ridiculous at that point. If they wanted to keep it going, they should have never they should have never made it that Umbrella collapsed in the prelude to 4. They
No,
should have
not
kept
at all.
Umbrella around.
And I hate to say this because of it is Capcom and the whole we want to go back to our roots. I just really hope that they actually make a decent change in the games instead of just trying to do that Capcom milking the
with you,
fucking
Ryan.
cow.
I'll believe it when I see it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they said the same thing for Mega Man and look what happened.
Yeah, well, in all
And we
honesty,
will
they
never
sort of
get
did.
a good Mega Man game again.
9 and 10 were pretty good.
But dude, I don't even consider them part of their little plan because how much does it take to release an 8-bit game in this day and age?
Oh, not much at all, but at least
Exactly.
it's technically they're doing what they said they were gonna
Mega
do.
Man Legends 3, where the hell is a new Mega Man X?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm slightly younger than you, Wilson. I grew up more. I played the original Nintendo. We own an original Nintendo. I still have mine, but I grew up in a cognizant sense of gaming, like where I could understand the game and what was going on. I grew up more in the Super Nintendo era.
Yeah.
And Mega Man X is probably my favorite franchise from that era, next to Super Castlevania 4. I played the shit out of the Mega Man X games.
Oh, so did I. But for me, like I said, I started with the Nintendo, and Mega Man 1 through 5, or I'm sorry, 1 through 6, fantastic games. I beat the piss out of all of those. Don't get me wrong, the X games were fantastic, as well as the Zero games for the Game Boy. But for
Capcom going back to their roots, I don't see it. I don't see them
No.
making that jump or that actual,
It's-
commitment to the fans. Because
it's most likely a milking the cow situation, like they do with everything else.
well, that's again another part. Capcom and Konami aren't as big as EA and Activision, obviously, but to survive, that's what they're doing. They're following suit of what EA and Activision are doing, because EA and Activision are such big titans that everybody has to follow in step with what they do.
Yeah.
Capcom's the
Except-
big on-disc DLC dudes, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes. The only companies that I can give props for not following the path for that is, like you said earlier, Bethesda and Valve.
Correct.
They're out there. They're doing their own thing. They, could care less what the other companies are doing. They will never sell out to them.
No, I agree with you 100%. It's the companies like Bethesda and Valve, which me and John, we had this discussion last week about companies giving a chance on new IPs, which not too many of them do these days. And I understand why, because it's a big risk, and most of the companies do have, benefactors and boards where they have to, make their quotas. But if you look at Bethesda and Valve, those two are probably the two companies that do it the most.
Oh, yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's because they have a more creative development team to do that. They aren't constricted into this model like EA and Activision have built up around themselves.
Well, that's because Bethesda and Valve, like we said, were really the only two mainstream companies that are privately owned right now.
Mm-hmm. But on the fact of IPs
Well,
and new IPs,
Bethesda's owned by
ZeniMax,
ZeniMax.
which it's still considered a private company. It's not traded on the stock market.
correct.
I didn't know that.
One of the main things too with the IP issue and coming up with new IPs, you see more of these companies trying to change their IPs than come up with new IPs. Sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. Like, have you heard about what the next Zelda game is supposed to be like?
Open world.
Open world and
no.
co-op.
Yeah.
That's all hearsay, though.
Yeah. No.
There's been rumors like that about Zelda going back to
Well, this-
Majora's Mask.
No,
This
no,
actually
no,
came
no.
from Iwata. This
No,
was
it wasn't
straight
from Iwata. It was No, was it from Iwata or the other guy?
It was from Iwata during the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah,
conference.
no, I remember he even said it, that two of the main things in the Zelda games from the beginning of time was doing the dungeons in order and playing by yourself. And they want
those are
to
thrown out the window.
they want to steer away from that. Doesn't really mean it's going to be open world. It might be something along the lines of having like a co-op version of like something like the Four Swords, which they did on a Game Boy.
I don't know. I think they're hinting at going in the direction of Skyrim.
Could be good. Could be bad.
Nintendo won't make a game that massive.
You never know, man. They've got to do
They're
something.
really pulling it. They're really grasping at straws now to bring back the hardcore player base. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
I could see them making something with, actual. Not saying that Skyward Sword's graphics were bad. For the Wii hardware, they were gorgeous. But, you want to see something like
HD.
Zelda in Uncharted graphics. That would be ridiculous. That'd be phenomenal.
yeah, it's coming out this fall. Wind Waker HD, total rehaul of the game.
Yeah, but that's Wind Waker, though.
Wind Waker was a fantastic Zelda.
It
But
was.
what I mean is that's cell shading in HD.
I don't care.
I'm talking about like Uncharted in-game
Oh,
graphics.
more realistic. I do
Exactly.
understand that, but like I said, they're grasping at straws to get the
I mean,
hardcore.
I'm happy that Wind Waker HD is coming out. Don't get me wrong. I played the shit out of Wind Waker when it came out. I got
Yeah.
the collector's edition. I actually have the gold disc with all the old Zelda games on it that came with it is sitting there on my GameCube that's right next to me.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I don't think they're going to do it as open and as massive as Skyrim. I was going to say Skyward Sword. I think they're going to steer a little bit away from the beaten path that they usually go on, but I don't think it's going to be that immense and that open like a Skyrim or really any kind of Morrowind or Skyrim
I'm a little curious while we're talking about Zelda here. Are either of you going to get Hyrule Historia?
Of course.
Is that the book?
That's the book that's coming out. It's kind of like the anniversary edition thing. They
Right.
actually they outlined the timeline in it. Their surprise is an actual timeline, which threw everybody for a loop.
Yeah. I really don't want to get into the whole timeline discussion, Dan. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's been going around. What the Japanese version of it came out? What, November?
Yeah.
Everybody knows the timeline. It's really convoluted, if you ask me. It won't be worth actually reading into until they get more in depth with it. What?
Do you think we would have another timeline if I killed you right now?
I'm a firm believer in science, so essentially there is a timeline where I am made of candy singing in Gumdrop Rain.
Apparently you did not get my jibe at the timeline explanation, but that's okay.
No, I got it. I don't want to get into the whole timeline explanation, period.
But anyway, fucking Zelda, man. They're not going to do anything to create. It's Nintendo.
Zelda is by far my favorite IP ever. That is my holy grail of they can do no wrong. They're not, that wasn't made, but that was Nintendo. That was
licensed it.
So what?
Yeah, but they realized their mistake and never did it again.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so hungry, I could eat an Octorok.
Yeah, no, the CDI was not Nintendo. That's like saying, I don't even know what that's saying because it's just ridiculous to even. That's like saying I don't know if you ever seen the Snake's Revenge on the NES, the forgotten Metal Gear game. It wasn't.
The one that wasn't made by Kojima.
Exactly.
He had actually no idea that it was even being developed until he saw it on the store shelves.
Yeah, Capcom or not Konami wanted to cash in. That they wanted to cash in, and because Metal Gear was a huge success, so they wanted to cash in, and they hired some crap company to go in and make this game up. It wasn't stealth. It was a top-down shooter. You were still Snake, obviously, but you're
the Metal Gear game that wasn't stealth. What does that sound like?
Revengeance that's coming out.
I wonder if it'll do any better.
No, but I actually have high hopes for Platinum Studios game coming out. The Raiden game. I forget what it's fucking called.
Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Yeah, I know. I remember the Revengeance part. At least give me some credit. But no, with Snake's Revenge, the company that did it, I don't even remember. Konami went and actually came out and said this game does not exist. That's how bad it was. The bad guy's name was Hyarola Kakamami from the nation of Ishkabibble. He won the Merciless Man of the Year like 5 times in a row. It was just a horrible, horrible game. I've played it. I own a copy of it. Just to say I own a copy of it. It's bad.
So, what are we looking like here? What are we looking like on time?
I don't know.
It's
I'm
like
gonna
10 to 1.
Yeah, we started at like 11. A little after 11.
All right. Well, what do you say we close the podcast with something generic, something like what are we looking forward to in 2013? The most you're looking forward to.
We could do that. Like I said, I can chop all this stuff up to get time out, like any kind of dead air and everything. I can chop up. We could do that.
All right. So to close the podcast, let's give a good shout out to this future year. Let's talk about what we're excited for in 2013, what you're most looking forward to.
Okay. Wind Waker HD, hands down. I'm sorry, I'm a huge Zelda fanboy.
With all of the big titles coming out this year, you're looking forward to a remake of a GameCube game. Not to bash how good the Wind Waker was, but really,
Pretty much, yeah.
wow. I can't actually believe these words are going to come out of my mouth, but I'm disappointed in you.
No, you're not. You're not really disappointed in me.
I am.
No, actually, all right, I'll give you one better. All right, I am really excited for Grand Theft Auto 5. I am really excited for that. And it wasn't our stuff to talk about, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It did get pushed back from the supposed July date to September 17th. One of the big rumors is it's possibly going to be ported to a next-gen console, as well as the Wii U. I don't know how true it is. I was reading a couple things online today. But Grand Theft Auto 5 looks fantastic.
Rockstar won't let that happen. They have enough pull to do whatever, unless they want it to.
Yeah, well, of
they
course.
want to.
But the big rumor, like I said before with the
Why
PS4...
would they want it to?
Because they'd be a launch title on one of the new console systems. Could you imagine the royalty fees that they'd get?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but everybody already owns the current gen, so they have all, like, countless guaranteed
And what
sales.
a bigger selling point to sell systems than Grand Theft Auto 5.
Especially if the PS4 is, like I said, the rumor is it might be a holiday this year thing.
If
And
the
as
PlayStation
expensive as it
3
is.
costs what, 500? If the PlayStation 4 costs what, like $500 or $600, would you buy that plus the $60 game just
Never
to play Grand Theft
underestimate
Auto 5?
the stupid consumer power of stupid people.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I mean, I don't think so.
I don't either. I'm just, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't really think the PS4 is going to come out this year. I really don't. But that's the rumor. That's all I'm saying.
All right, well, John, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to a bunch of shit, actually. I'm trying to think of what my one... I'm kind of really looking forward to BioShock Infinite. I'm playing through the
With
second
how long
one.
it's been in development for?
I'm playing through the second one. The first one was one of the best games of the current generation. It was fucking fantastic. But the reason I'm so excited for it is because, similar to the leading up to the first one, I really haven't been following it in terms of like what it's about and what the story and the characters and the setting is. So I really don't. I'm kind of going into it blind. So it's kind of that really doesn't happen that often anymore.
Well, no, not really,
I'm
since
shocked.
the invention of the internet.
Yeah.
I thought Wilson would say Watch Dogs. I thought
Watch
maybe
Dogs is gonna suck.
I
I'm
thought
calling
somebody
it.
might have said The Last of Us.
Last of Us is one of them that
Yeah, I'll
I
put that up in my higher up on my list.
as is Beyond from the
The-
dude
the-
who made
That's the Ellen Page movie game, isn't it?
well who looks like Ellen Page, but
Well, no. The one game I think it is Beyond. Is that the one with the little girl and the ghost?
But
It's Ellen Page.
The Last of Us, the chick looks like Ellen Page,
Yeah.
but it's not. But yeah, Beyond is the one with Ellen Page from Heavy Rain, the Heavy Rain
Yeah.
guys, and Fahrenheit.
See, I still haven't played Heavy Rain.
I watched my roommate play through it and influenced some of his decisions, so I basically played it.
The one thing that's Quantum Dynamics or whatever it is.
Quantum Dream, Quantum
Yeah,
something.
it's Quantum something or other. Their games are always so polished, it's ridiculous.
I mean, if they weren't, that would be kind of sad because there's so little actual gameplay.
Yeah, it's pretty much like dynamic storytelling, really.
I mean, Fahrenheit and Heavy Rain are I think it's their only other things. I played both of them, enjoyed both of them.
Well, they did Indigo Prophecy on the last generation.
Fahrenheit Indigo Prophecy is the same.
That game was fantastic.
Yeah, that was great. The ending was real weird, but whatever. Who cares?
Yeah,
Beyond's gonna be. I hope Beyond's just as fucking weird.
yeah, I like those type of games, especially. It was another rumor I heard, and apparently it's something, but a Eternal Darkness sequel.
That's nothing but a rumor. Silicon Knights is so locked up in legal battles right now that I don't think that they have the manpower to even.
They
release
trademarked
it.
the name. That's the only way the rumor's alive, is
That's
they
just
trademark the
so
name.
no one else can do it.
Pretty much.
Well, as long as they
I
own
bet,
the rights, they don't have to trademark shit.
I bet you both are going to know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to throw you for a loop.
Daisy standalone.
Now, see, you would think that.
End podcast.
While I'm very, very, very excited for Daisy Standalone, that is not my most anticipated game for 2013.
What are you waiting for? The new Castlevania?
I am waiting for Castlevania. I want Lords of Shadow 2.
Oh, does that actually have a 2013 release date?
No, it does not, but it's still my anticipated game for 2013. I am a Castlevania devotee. I will be in line at midnight wherever
More like
is released at midnight.
more like a Castlevania diva.
You know what? I don't care whatever ridicule you throw at me. I'm
I'm a huge Castlevania fan myself, but I didn't even think of that because I'm pretty sure it's not going to come out in 2013.
I'm so pumped for Lords of Shadow 2 to see how this saga ends, to see what Belmont they're going to put into Lords of Shadow 2, since they're already reimagining Trevor and Simon for Mirror of Fate. It's got to be either Julius or Richter or a completely new Belmont for the console Lords of Shadow 2, but I'm exceedingly excited.
You know, though, I wouldn't be surprised if what they did, because they said it's the end of the Lords of Shadow games. They didn't say it was the end of Castlevania games for them. They said it was the end of the Lords of Shadow games. I wouldn't be surprised if they did the same thing as like in the first one, where you had that really awesome cutscene at the end, which pretty much says, "Hey, we're coming out with another fucking game." And then that was the arc into an actual Castlevania game where you're a Belmont.
Well, that's Mirror of Fate.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about a console.
Yeah, but the way they're structuring this is they've told the beginning story, they're telling the end story, and they've got a fan service middle timeline game where it features the Belmonts. But that's not to say that people can't revisit the Lords of Shadow universe. Konami will probably continue to make Lords of Shadow universe games, but the beginning and the end will already be told, so they'll have a lot of creative freedom putting stuff in the middle. They won't be grasping at straws like they did with, and I've got a lot of respect for Iga, but at the end there, he was really coming out with some wacky stories to put to the middle of the Castlevania.
I'm sorry, but like the whole Soma thing was kind of cool, but he really went off the wall with it near the end of that.
He was personally smoking a little bit of hash when he came out with that idea.
Yeah, and I really wish they did a game about the Great War, the 1999 war.
Well, that's what I'm hoping that, Lords of Shadow 2 is, the Lords of Shadow universe version of that. Have Julius, have, Gabriel's final redemption, the end of Dracula, the Satan could be paralleled as chaos from the two different, parallel dimensions or whatever, but I'm excited. I want to see.
I am too.
I want to see how they're going to do it. Originally, I didn't like how it didn't have all the Castlevania classic music and all that, but I've gotten used to the Lords of Shadow music. I really like the tone they set, the atmosphere. Hopefully, they learn from the few mistakes that I feel they did make in the first game, even though it was my game of the year of 2010.
It was up there on mine. It really was.
If they cut down on the quick time events and continue evolving that fluid combat system, because the combat system was absolutely phenomenal in Lord of Shadow 1. I thought it was one of its strongest selling points was how it utilized the whip, how it was almost like a throwback to Super Castlevania 4, where the whip was everything.
Yeah.
You interacted with the environment with that whip, and interacting with the environment with the combat cross in Lords of Shadow was so predominant. It really did make you feel like you were playing a 3D version of Super Castlevania 4.
Yeah, my biggest thing with Lords of Shadow 1 was at times the camera was a little bit wonky.
Yeah, they need to fix the camera. But besides the couple camera issues and the overabundance of QuickTime events, that game was solid. And it was
I agree with you. I really do.
Fix those few problems and continue evolving the game for when Lords of Shadow 2 comes out, that game will be a game of the year. And if it doesn't win it, which I'm confident that it could probably stand on its own now, it seems like the gaming industry and the gaming community is finally starting to move away from, oh my god, Call of Duty's epic. Oh my god, the newest shooter is the best game of the year. You know, Walking Dead winning game of the year at VGA was like a step in the right direction for which the community needs to go into, and giving these other games a chance to shine.
Definitely. Oh, definitely. We're pulling out of the broski stage of the gaming community, where it's going back to storytelling. It's going back to, it's not at the point where it was for the past several years, where everything was based on fucking graphics. Storytelling is why we play video games.
Well, it's because graphics are hitting a wall. I mean, how much more can we go besides going into virtual reality? There's not much more you can improve.
During the Call of Duty craze, there's been a number of great games that focused more on the Mass Effect franchise.
Yeah,
Mass Effect 2 was fucking fantastic.
I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is they've been overshadowed by the Call of Duty genre.
Dude, Mass Effect 2 won a number of Game of the Year.
I'm not saying it hasn't, but what gets most of the publicity these days with gaming?
It's the vast pick by the community.
And the gaming community goes through its stages. I mean, back the PS1 days, what was the JRPGs were the thing on PlayStation 1
because of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
And a lot of good JRPGs got overshadowed because of the monoliths in the JRPG
industry. Yeah, definitely.
You see that in every age. How many good platformers were overshadowed because of Mario? It's the same argument that you get into in every generation. One genre shines above the rest as the mainstream, and all the other games, even though they get recognition and people talk about them as being good, they get overshadowed because the other genre is such a giant.
Exactly. And like I said, it's every couple of years you see that change, and it's bound to happen again. It's just what's it going to be.
I'm hoping it's open world sandbox, make your own story.
I don't want it to be the genre to go to, but I kind of wish I would see a resurgence of it, is Japanese RPGs, really.
You just won Suikoden 6.
Not even that. I mean, there was tons of titles that could have done more, and they didn't because the Western RPG took over.
Well,
like your Skyrims.
That too is marketing. Marketing.
And there's a cultural barrier there that's never going to be.
JRPGs are well and alive over in Japan. We just
no, I understand that. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Monster Hunter is a great example.
That's not even a JRPG though. That's an action game.
But it's got the RPG elements. It's what they've evolved into over.
Yeah. Oh no, I know that. But like you got your titles like Shin Megami Tensei, which could still be pretty popular over here. It used to be a decent title over here.
What was that movement? That petition to bring those couple games over to the Wii a year or two back?
Oh, I forget. I really forget. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, it's like that was the huge thing on the PS1, and I'm not saying I want it to be the go-to genre of this generation. I just would like a little bit more freshness in it on our side. I couldn't tell you the last time I played a good Eastern RPG ever in the last like 5 years, maybe more. That wasn't a older game. Wasn't something I was playing for nostalgia.
Like contemporary. I don't know either, man.
Lost Odyssey.
Didn't play it.
No, I didn't play that.
It was good. It was good. I enjoyed it. We won't mention Final Fantasy 13 here.